All right, let's talk about one of the biggest headaches in the cloud. How do you manage all your stuff without getting totally lost in a sea of manual clicks and settings? Well, it turns out there's a much smarter way to do it, and it all starts with a simple idea: a blueprint.
You've probably been there, right? You log into the AWS console, you need a web server. So you start clicking. You spin up a virtual server and EC2 instance. Okay, that needs a network, so you build a VPC. Then you need security rules, and storage, and a public IP address. The list just goes on. And after all those clicks, you finally get it working. Success! But here comes the hard part. Could you, right now, build that exact same setup again tomorrow, with every single setting being identical? What about for a different team? Or maybe you need a complete copy for disaster recovery? All of a sudden, that manual process becomes an absolute nightmare. You're trying to remember settings, things are inconsistent, and human error is pretty much guaranteed. There has got to be a better way.
And that's the core problem we're talking about today. This whole traditional method of just clicking through a web console, we're calling it the chaos of manual clicks. It's where most of us start, but you learn pretty fast that it's slow, it's risky, and it just does not scale. This really shows you the two different worlds. Over on the left, you've got the manual way. It's slow, tedious, and honestly kind of fragile. But on the right, you see the blueprint way. It's automated, it's consistent every single time, and it's completely controlled. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a small improvement. It's a total game changer for how you build things in the cloud. So this big shift is built on this really powerful concept called infrastructure as code, or IaC for short. The idea is actually super simple, but it's revolutionary. You start treating your infrastructure, your servers, your databases, your networks, all of it, exactly like you treat your application software. You define it all in a text file, a blueprint that any human can read, and, more importantly, a machine can execute perfectly every single time. And in the AWS world, the tool for this is AWS CloudFormation. It's a service that lets you write that blueprint, that template, for all of your infrastructure. Now, the key word here is declarative. See, you don't write a script telling CloudFormation how to build everything step by step. No, you just declare what you want. You say, hey, I want 2 servers and a load balancer, and CloudFormation is smart enough to figure out the right order and all the dependencies to make that happen for you. You write the blueprint, AWS builds it. Simple as that. So what's actually in one of these blueprints? What do they look like? Let's take a peek under the hood and break down the anatomy of a CloudFormation template. We're going to look at the key building blocks that really bring your infrastructure to life. First up, and this is the big one, we have resources. This is the absolute heart and soul of your template. It is simply the list of everything you want AWS to create. This is the what. You want a server? You define it here. You need a database? You define it here. In fact, this is the only section that you absolutely have to have in every template. Next, we have parameters. Now, you can think of these as the customizable knobs on your blueprint. So instead of locking in a specific server size, you can make it a parameter. Why is that cool? Because it means you can use the exact same blueprint to launch a tiny server for your dev team and a massive one for production. You just change the input value. It makes your blueprints incredibly flexible and reusable.
Then you've got mappings. Now, if parameters are the customizable knobs, mappings are more like a fixed menu of options that are already baked in. A classic example is the software image for your server, the AMI. That image ID is actually different in every single AWS region. So you can use a mapping to create a little lookup table, so your template automatically picks the right AMI based on the region you're deploying to. Pretty clever, right?
And finally, there are outputs. This is how your different blueprints can talk to each other. So imagine you have one blueprint that builds your entire network. It can output the final network ID. Then, a second blueprint that builds your web servers can just import that network ID to make sure it deploys into the right place. It lets you build your infrastructure like a set of Lego bricks that all connect together. So when you put it all together, the process is just beautifully simple. You write your template file, you upload it to CloudFormation, you tell it to create what's called a stack, which is really just all the stuff that gets built from your blueprint. And then you just sit back while AWS handles all the heavy lifting. A few minutes later, your infrastructure is live and ready to go. Okay, so we've seen how it all works, but the real question is, why is this so important? What's the big payoff? Well, this is the fun part. I like to think of CloudFormation as giving you and your team 3 incredible superpowers. Superpower number 1 is total control.
Your entire infrastructure is now just a text file. That means you can check it into a version control system like Git. Every single change can be reviewed, commented on, and approved by your team. No more wondering who changed that security setting in the middle of the night. You have a complete, auditable history of everything.
The second superpower? Radical productivity. Think about this. You need to spin up a brand new environment for a tester? Just run the template. You need to deploy your whole application to a new country? Run the template. You can recreate massive, complex systems in minutes, not days or weeks. You're not spending time figuring out dependencies because AWS does all that orchestration for you.
And superpower number 3 is smart cost management. First off, CloudFormation automatically tags all your resources so you get crystal clear visibility into exactly what each environment is costing you. But then you can use that automation to save a ton of money. You could automatically delete all your development stacks every night at 6 p.m. and then automatically rebuild them the next morning. It's control that hits your bottom line for sure.
So we've seen how a single blueprint can build a single environment, which is awesome. But what happens when your organization goes global? When you have dozens or even hundreds of AWS accounts and you need to manage them all?
This is the ultimate challenge of scale, isn't it? How do you make sure that your company's standard security rules, or your logging setup, or your core network design is deployed consistently, everywhere, all at once? Well, the answer takes our whole blueprint idea and kicks it up to a whole new level. And that answer is something called AWS StackSets. A stack set lets you take one master CloudFormation blueprint and deploy it across any number of AWS accounts and any number of regions you want, all with a single operation. If you need to update that blueprint, you update it once, and StackSets can roll out that change everywhere automatically. It's the ultimate tool for managing infrastructure at a massive scale. And that really brings it all together. CloudFormation takes building infrastructure from this manual, error-prone craft and turns it into a repeatable, automated engineering discipline. It's about moving from chaos to control. So, let me leave you with this final thought. Step back from the tech for just a second. This idea of a repeatable blueprint is a really powerful one. If you could apply it to any system in your life, what would you build first?